Alex, thank you so much for being here and for accepting this interview. Um, Alex Harris started in the early 2000s and has designed and developed hundreds of business to business and business to consumer e-commerce services and wholesale websites. He's a certified conversion rate optimization and chief experience officer that partners with Optimizely, Adobe Target, and Montate. Um, and he already has published two books that are available at Amazon. They are called Boost E-commerce Sales and Make More Money, 300 Tips to Increase Conversion Rates and Generate Leads, and Small Business Big Money Online, a proven system to optimize e-commerce websites and increase internet profits. So, Alex, thank you so much. And I'm just going to fire up a really interesting question that I've been researching your background, and I'm really keen in understanding a little bit more of this. So, your background started as a web designer, right?
Hmm.
And how did you figure out that you had a conversion rate mindset from there?
I didn't. I didn't know what conversion was. So my story was I originally was I wanted to be an artist, a drawing and painting. I went to school not necessarily for art, but that's what I wanted to do. And then I learned Photoshop and Illustrator. And I immediately learned that you can take stuff and make it on the computer and put it on the internet. It was like magic. And from there, I was able to create websites. And the first job I got out of college was to create HTML newsletters that drove traffic to landing pages. Years after basically testing and iterating landing pages, I realized I was doing direct response marketing. And I never wanted to be a marketer. Who wants to, push stuff onto people? And I realized what I was interested in was human behavior and how people interacted with my website designs. So I started to market myself as a conversion focused web designer. And I branded myself as a landing page designer, and I was number one for landing page design for 5 or 6 years, all the way until the Google Panda update came out. So I learned everything basically through experience. I never went to marketing school. All I did was turn my art into designs, and then I learned how to profit from them.
That's amazing, and never going to the marketing school and having all of these experiences is quite incredible. And for you, what's the most common and recurring thing that causes growth when you are applying your conversion rate optimization strategies?
It's obviously it's going to depend on your different situations, but it's really first of all the fundamentals of starting with data. Us as business owners or marketers, we make assumptions about what our customers really want. And that's really not the way to approach it. We want to make sure we use research and insight to really put ourselves in the customer's shoes so we see the site and the experience like they do. So really understanding how humans interact with your web pages helps you convert better. And you can't do that by just making assumptions about your users. You have to use qualitative data and quantitative data to really understand where people are going on your site and why not they're potentially converting. So if you take those aspects and then you create a framework which you can learn from, then you can continue to iterate and learn more about your customers. And the more you know more about your customers, you can increase the velocity of the growth aspects that you do. And then essentially each one compounds upon each other. So it doesn't matter really what the tactics or tools that you use are, as long as you're learning from your feedback loop and increasing the velocity to accelerate the learnings and then apply it to something that's actually making a difference. That's how you get the ROI.
That's amazing. I already I also agree with you that we need a framework and a process that allows us to
Mhm.
build our growth. And you talk about that. So you have a framework that you develop for your experiences and for your optimizations. And if you have, can you guide us a little bit through what you look when you're starting out?
Yeah, I do have a framework in the one of the books that I wrote. I created the framework called marketing optimization. It's very based on the scientific method or the traditional conversion rate optimization frameworks, but it's based on the first step is discovery, the second is hypothesis, third is execution, fourth is review, and the fifth is the scale. So you're discovering who your customers are, not who you think they are, but who they really are based on the data. You're coming up with educated guesses on how you think you can improve the overall performance of your site. You're executing where the actual work is being done, iterating and increasing the velocity of your experiments and running more conclusive experiments. It really doesn't matter if they win or lose, but you're really learning from those. That way, in the fifth step, you're able to review what has worked for you and what hasn't. Obviously, you want to remove what hasn't worked and then double down on what has. That's the way you can overall scale and grow. And really, the biggest, easiest way to understand this is through e-commerce. E-commerce is based on about 5 custom templates: home page, product page, category page, shopping cart pages, and maybe your about page. If you're able to improve something on one of your product pages, then you can apply it to all of your product pages, and then you're really able to scale those wins across the entire board. And then you can continue to segment it. Maybe now you're running experiments specifically versus for new versus returning visitors, or different ad campaigns. So you can continuously iterate and find wins to leverage those growth aspects in different aspects so you can really scale your bottom line.
Yeah, I do agree with that, and I think that starting out in one of those 5 pages in e-commerce, it's definitely a way to go. And you mentioned 3 or 4 times already that data is utterly important to start. And I think, at least for me, when I start implementing a growth loop or a growth process, I always start with analyzing the data that I have, and I assume that you do the same. So when you're starting out a new business or new optimization for a customer, do you have problems like when you're trying to get the data and getting out the quantitative and qualitative analysis from them?
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, you have to have access to be able to see their data. So let's say you're using Hotjar, you have to obviously have access to the Hotjar account or the Google Analytics or Adobe accounts. But even from that aspect, the web has totally, obviously it changes every year, but now it's not even only about your website. It's about the social media that's driving traffic to it. It's about the apps. It's about what's in the news. It's about the economy. Are we in a pandemic? So you really start to have to think outside the box. What are all these contributing factors that all happen to your site? And it's probably different for e-commerce versus SaaS versus high-tech financial services. In e-commerce, we use a couple different frameworks to kind of figure out our next steps. One of the biggest ones is the RFM framework: a recency, frequency, and monetary value. So when first-time customers come to your site, how quickly can you get them to purchase on the first time, and then upsell them additional services? So recency, you want to get them to recently visit your site and then come back more frequently. And the third step is to increase the monetary value, so the average order value. So as they are checking out, how can you add more upsells or provide more value to them so they spend more money and increase their lifetime value? If you would increase each of the aspects of R, recency, F, frequency, and M, monetary value, if you're able to increase each of those factors by 30%, you would double the revenue on your website.
Yeah, that's amazing. So as more time is passing by, you are increasing the lifetime value of each customer, and you are in a way diluting the acquisition value of each customer, right?
Yeah, you are scaling your segments and your cohorts of different people in the right way. So when first-time customers visit, they're new visitors, you want to get them to become customers. And then now they're a customer, so you want to get them to come back and purchase more. So essentially you have all these different marketing funnels, all these different email marketing campaigns, and even ad campaigns that are all serving that person at that point in their process. And then once you have something that's winning, you could take those attributes and create a personalization experience to drive in more value. Someone comes in like, baseball hats that are from the Yankees. So you don't want to take them to pages that are all about the Boston Red Sox because those teams hate each other.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you're delivering the right content to the right person at the right time, so it's relatable to them and they feel compelled to actually make a purchase. Because think about how you make a purchase on the internet. It's cold outside. You need a new sweater. You're going to a wedding, you need new shoes. There's certain triggers that happen in your mind before you even go to the web or you go to your phone to find and research that. And you have to understand those customers before they even arrive there so you can give them the right experience.
Yeah, that's a great vision, and I totally agree with what you were saying. And trying to go further a little bit down on this ladder of working on this optimization for
Mm-hmm.
e-commerce websites. At least in my day-to-day tasks and meetings with customers, sometimes I have to deal with something that I like to call the big ego that everyone has. And how do you cope with your customers' egos, and how do you help them to understand that that data that you are looking at is going to lead them
Mm-hmm.
to higher outcomes, and to help them in their RFFIM framework?
Absolutely. So me, I'm a designer. Designers are opinionated. And so are branding experts, and so are entrepreneurs. We all have opinions, and that's why we do testing, because testing takes out all the subjectivity of what we're going to run. You may have a pretty landing page or a pretty website that you want to run. Okay, let's try it. Let's see what is going to work or not. Because once you take the opinion out of it, you can start to make real decisions. Because what I see as going to work for a certain site, it may be different from what the customer actually sees. So you have to start to really think differently and think from the customer's perspective, and then really put it into some type of scorecard or framework. People hear about ICE or PI framework. I happen to use the PXL framework, which is based on Conversion Excel.
Mm-hmm.
And we take the PXL framework and we customize it specifically for a particular client site. So it takes into account how far that element is high on the page. Does it have high traffic? Is it measurable? Is it smart? Do we have a clear understanding of the overall objective? So it takes into more into account than just impact um, and those other factors. So PXL really helps us put together a clear framework to create quantifiable, conclusive experiments that are going to really make a difference to our ultimate growth goals.
Mm-hmm.
So when we work with a growth team, obviously we have our North Star, but we break that North Star down into specific micro goals that are ultimately going to lead up to our North Star. And each of our channels inside our PXL scorecard are going to focus on driving micro goals ultimately to scale up those overall macro goals.
Yeah, so it's a great way of looking at it and implementing a process that leads towards your goal. There is a sentence that I really like that is uh, said by Growth Tribe, David Arnault, and it's called. It says that data levels are all arguments, and in a way, it's something that we can say that when you just are testing, you can look at data, and
Mm-hmm.
the data is going to tell you which way to go. Actually, in growth hacking school, we use the PIES framework, not the
Mm-hmm.
PXL. But I think and I consider that each of these frameworks, they can be they can lead us to where we want to go. They just need to be well applied in our frameworks.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
um, shifting a little bit towards another aspect of what we're doing, I'm just curious. What So you started as a web designer. You Now you are a chief experience officer and a conversion rate optimization expert. And what made you create the Happy Progress podcast, and why did you found out that you needed to help people increase their personal growth?
Yeah, I think it's relatable how we all want these big achievements in our life, and we go through life struggling to get those achievements. And when you get there, they're not necessarily what you wanted in the end, or you burned a whole bunch of bridges to get there. So in the end, you can grow as much as you want, you can get all the results you want, but money is not going to bring you happiness.
Hmm.
It's really fulfillment and helping people, other people also achieve. So happy progress really is a way for me to help others, because I've seen the struggles in my own career that I could have done differently. And happy progress is essentially my way of helping others people grow as well, not only from a success or results aspect, but really from a mindset perspective. Happy progress is applying conversion optimization to your life. Every day that you go through life, your life is an experiment, and you try to do new things, or you should intentionally try to do new things so you can create more equity every day. My goal is to maximize the ROI of my day. So every day I'm trying to invest in myself to make a better self in the future. And happy progress is all about making small intentional improvements in your life for compound growth, because that's really the way you succeed. You intentionally go out there and you do a podcast. You interviewed me to network and meet other people. That's intentional, and it's not going to be something that goes away, because you're creating a video and it's going to be out there for a long time. So happy progress, it could be about playing video games. It could be about journaling, doing art, doing marketing, or whatever it is. But it's about doing intentional things every day that are ultimately going to provide fulfillment in your life.
Yeah. So that reminds me a great book that I read a couple months ago called Atomic Habits. I don't know if you already read it. And I had a question here for you that was, do you agree that there is a compound effect in minor tasks done daily that will lead to higher outcomes? But you already replied to that. So the thing is, I understood also that in your career, you're right now shifting a little bit outside of the conversion rate optimization world for marketing only, and you are looking more into a lifestyle thing, because as you said, money is not the only thing that matters. So do you think that each one of us, if we invest in a daily basis, we are capable of maximizing our ROI in life?
Absolutely. I think that you give what you get. I mean, or you get what you give. Either way you put it, what you invest in is ultimately going to be your outcome. So if you make decisions every day to do things that are not going to be towards your North Star, you're going to get those other decisions. It's pretty much this. Everybody's looking for this very complex solution on life, and now I'm now 44. It comes down to the most simplest things, the basic stuff. How decisions give you results, and if you make the wrong decisions, you're going to get bad results. It's pretty much that simple, through marketing or through growth or through your own life. And now I'm in a completely different world in my career, where I'm actually in enterprise, which it's a very fast pace, but it's also very slow, but it's very highly political, and it can really mess with your brain. And I've always been super introverted. I actually use podcasting to break through some of my limitations and become a public speaker, and it's totally changed my life. And now I want to help other people see that they can do that for themselves as well. You can find ways to turn your passion into profit. Everybody needs a second income. These are all basic things that you go through life and need to understand as an entrepreneur. Especially now in the world of a pandemic, people are realizing they can't put all their eggs in the basket of a career. Like, I love my job, but who knows what's going to happen next year and if anything's all going to change. Just like in my first job, when I was at a startup, we actually went public, and the CEO at the time wanted to fire me, and I thought I was going to get fired every single day for 6 years. So that put me in a really bad mindset. So I focused my extra time at night on my freelance, and I built my entire career because I was forced out of pressure in order to build my own business on the side. And because I did that, I networked, I learned more, I became a better public speaker, I podcasted. And, Happy Progress is basically all of that. I didn't even know I was doing it at the time, but I was intentionally making myself better as a person, as a professional. And it improved my career, it improved my relationships. And it helped me remove all of the things that I didn't want in my life. And in the end, it made me more successful. It made me able to, get married to my dream girl. It made me able to, just figure out how to do work that I love and work with people that I love instead of everybody telling me, what I should be doing.
Yeah, so I can totally relate with that. And my first years is working in a corporate world. I
Yeah.
also had the same issues. So you mentioned 3 or 4 times also that networking is really important, and that you think that networking can help us
Oh, yeah.
lead to higher career paths. And my question in networking is, how do we network in times like this, and how can we increase our networking right now? For example, I talk to you with you on LinkedIn, and I'm using LinkedIn more often to connect with people and try to exchange some insights. But I also feel that sometimes these networking chains that we create on LinkedIn, they can be easily forgotten, and people tend to overlook on this because, well, sometimes you don't have time to reply or just forgot, and you don't have the same feeling that you had when we are meeting
Yeah.
person to person.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly different times, but if anything, there's certainly more webinars and more things online going on than ever. And if they're not out there, you should create them yourself. I would think that start at the basics. If you are into conversion optimization, join the Conversion Excel Facebook group and go talk to everybody out there. Ask them questions about conversion optimization. Just get your voice out there and meet other people. If you're into Shopify, join the unofficial Shopify podcast with Kurt Elster, and go in there and just meet other people. I meet people who I want to interview on my podcast, or they want me on their show all the time in Facebook groups, LinkedIn conversations, and then I go out and I try to find virtual events that are going to relate to my work, and that way I can hopefully be on camera and meet other people. And whatever you do, it's going to take sacrifice. It's going to where you put in time to one thing, it's going to take time for another thing. So, if anything, I would recommend find your one thing. What is the one thing that you want to be really known for? And then go out in there, find groups that you can really insert yourself into and be part of the conversation. You don't need to know everything. You don't even need to be an expert. Just ask a lot of questions and introduce yourself. And then, if you are just getting started and you're looking to get experience, find who your ultimate client really is and find ways to potentially do work for them. Show your value before you even ask for money. That way you can really show your expertise and also build your portfolio all at the same time. That's all networking. It's all really the same thing because you're building equity in yourself and you're building your resume going forward. LinkedIn is amazing. If you didn't know, you can basically SEO the hell out of your LinkedIn profile, keywords and all that stuff. So whatever your one thing is, find someone on LinkedIn who has ultimately your perfect career, your perfect project that you want to create, and kind of mimic what they do or make them your mentor. You don't even need to talk to them for them to become your mentor. Gary Vee's one of my mentor. I've met him a few different times, but we don't really talk anymore. But through his videos, he motivates me, and I'm still right there. And I would certainly consider him part of my network, even though I don't talk to him on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's excellent piece of advice. And you're talking about starting with the basics and find the group that
Yeah.
is related to your one thing or your North Star metric.
Yeah, and you can also get local. Go to meetup.com and find a local meetup group. They're probably still doing virtual things online. So there's still many ways to do it, even though we're mostly all staying home right now.
Yeah, that's true. And that's that's quite interesting because I think that the weight of summing what you just said is finding your niche and
Yeah.
learning how to talk the same language as them, right?
Yeah.
And
If you're a growth hacker, go to growthhackers.com and join the community.
yeah,
I don't know if it's still as big as it used to be, but that was the place to be. You'd go in there and you'd get questions and stuff going on.
you
So there's
have lots
certainly
of
growth hack.
Facebook groups, you have
Yeah.
Reddit, you have Quora.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Alex, right now you also said that time you have time for one thing and you can leave other on the table, right? So right now, what are you most focusing at, and what is your next goal towards the next year?
Uh, it is hard. It certainly is hard to have one thing. That's for sure. My thing is all about mindset. I am in a completely different world in enterprise, and I am using the same skills that I applied to small to mid-sized businesses to enterprise, and it's really working because enterprises, they're stuck. They don't move very quickly. They're stuck in technical debt. They can't accelerate growth. So I'm looking to create a little disruption. I see how the market's all consolidating with software in the space. You see everybody buying each other, and there's a great opportunity for growth focused experts to come in there and work with big businesses, because all of these system integrators, they really can't move very quickly without understanding actually how to produce results. uh, there's a big shift. I don't know how far it's going to go, but a lot of companies are moving away from this marketing stack of multiple different companies, and they're moving to all in one. I would say probably in e-commerce space, Shopify is probably that one example,
Mm-hmm.
and it's happening in SaaS as well. But for me, my one thing is to make a difference in how conversion focused web design is really approached. If you were to redesign your website and just put it up these days, your conversion rates will tank. It's pretty much guaranteed that if you rush into a web design, or you just focus on a new pretty site without actually doing any iterative releases or beta or testing, you will crush your performance. So my one thing is that I'm focused on iterative website redesign, the ability to guarantee that you can make money from a site migration or moving to an entirely new system or entirely new website design, and actually produce growth at the same time. So it's something, it's super complex to actually execute because it takes a lot of people and a lot of movement. But I feel where I'm at right now, I have a big opportunity to get hands-on with very big businesses and show that this actually is something that should be embedded into every design system and development rollout that's out there. Because I tell you, the first job that I worked for, the startup, after we went public, they hired that CEO, and that CEO hired a very high-level agency. We redesigned the website, and the next day we started losing a lot of money, and that's the reason why we went out of business.
Yeah, so that's a lot of knowledge that you shared right now, and I think that you have the expertise to do that, of course, and I hope that you can work better towards this big outcome. And I just have one final question to you, and the question is, what is the biggest challenge that you see? And you already almost replied to this, but what is the biggest challenge that you see in the growth industry, and that you see that the growth industry is facing right now, and how do you think that people can overcome it? You already talked a little bit about companies not innovating from inside, and
Yeah.
that they are stuck in debt sometimes, and purchasing from one another and creating all-in-one solutions. But I would like you to go a little bit more further.
Yeah, well, I think it's definitely a different level of the same thing I just talked about. But what I would call it is reactive digital transformation. This big word that these big companies use to sell you on services that you may not need. So reactive digital transformation essentially is when a company realizes that they're not up to standards and they needed to rush to migrate to a new site or release a new website redesign to catch up. I tell you, sometimes ugly websites convert very well. So you may not actually want to rush into that website redesign. So what I see the biggest challenge is that there is a certain level between the right aesthetic design and the right direct response conversion design. So companies really need to approach digital transformation in a more iterative, proactive way. If you're not doing conversion optimization, experimentation, or dabbling in personalization these days, start right now because nothing's going to happen overnight. I mean, we're in the middle of the holiday season. I have people reaching out to me every week. Oh, I need to fix my conversion rates. It's too late. It's too late. Don't be reactive. Focus your one thing on ultimately guiding your clients and your customers to think about growth way before you're ready. Because if you didn't know, there's like a 30% win rate for experiments. The biggest companies out there have between a 30 and a 50% win rate for experiments. That means every 7 out of 10 experiments that you run are probably going to lose. But if you're able to experiment quicker, increase your velocity through acceleration of testing, you're able to learn faster. And even though it's potentially 30%, you're going to learn a lot faster very, very quickly. And the cliche example to this is Amazon. We all go to Amazon all the time, and they are redesigning their website every single day. They're running thousands of experiments all at the same time, and you never really ever notice. That's the way your website needs to be. Your customers should never really notice that you make changes, but you're all obviously trying to make improvements and user experience to be more performant so they can actually achieve their goals faster. So in the end, I would say don't focus on being reactive. Make sure you understand where you want to go and start planning for your future today.
Okay, thank you so much for your opinion. That's amazing. Just wanted to share something that you made me realize. You were talking about some websites don't need to be redesigned, and I think Craigslist is just the perfect example of that. It still has millions of users, right? And then you have Amazon on the other side of the spectrum, that they are always changing everything. Alex, thank you so much for this interview. All the social media profiles and Alex's website is down on the description. So just go there, follow, connect, and network with him. He already loves it. So just go there and buy his books because they are good. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Pedro.